Tell me honestly, do you want a folding iPhone? Samsung and other manufacturers have had it for years now, and Apple is still rumored to enter the race of foldables. However, not everyone wants to wait. The team at Tech Aesthetics has revealed their own version of a foldable iPhone. As a reference, they used the Galaxy Flip, a clamshell foldable from Samsung. They have spent a year of trial and error, reverse engineering every little bit of the iPhone. iPhone X has been chosen as a donor since it is the cheapest iPhone with an OLED screen, which is flexible. The team has gutted out the glass cover on the display and the touch layers, leaving only the flexible OLED. They say that to do it correctly, they had to massacre 37 working screens. 37. The hinge was taken from a Motorola Razr from 2019. The team has created a custom motherboard with 3D printed parts and managed to fit internals rather nicely. But some sacrifices were made. The iPhone now has no Taptic engine, a smaller battery, and does not support wireless charging. But the cameras work and all the other vital parts too. Guys at Tech Aesthetics have even shown their take on iOS for foldables. Two windows on the screen became a reality. Basically, they managed to combine the best of both worlds, iOS and ecosystem from Apple, and folding principle from Motorola and Samsung. The phone they've got looks far from elegant, but the journey they had to cover is amazing. I just wish Apple saw this video and made some changes to their product release schedule. Apple, we're ready for foldable iPhones, foldable iPads, so, give us something. Apparently, Apple has been sued for data collection. App developers and security researchers from MISC have analyzed the code of the latest App Store update and found out that Apple is not entirely fair to claim that users' privacy is secure with Apple. The team found out that the App Store records every tap a person makes and sends that information directly to Apple. But that's not all the collected data. Apple creates a special ID which gets filled with data regarding where you tap, how you respond to in-app ads, possibly even tracks your eyes to determine whether you're looking at the ad banner or not. Do you remember that safety feature introduced in iOS 14.5? Ask app not to track? Well, forget it. Doesn't work here. No matter the preferences you set, Apple will continue to collect this data. Are you using the Apple Stocks app? Apple will receive the info on what stocks you're researching for, timestamps of your actions, well, everything. According to the California laws, it is a violation of the Invasion of Privacy Act. The corresponding class action lawsuit has been filed recently. The lawsuit doesn't really focus on the collected data, rather on the illusion of choice Apple gives by given settings such as allow apps to request to track and share analytics. Apple, on the other hand, publicly is very explicit about the data usage for advertisement. The company claims that its ad platform does not collect user or device data, with that data collected from third parties for targeted advertisement. But it really looks like Apple is trying to sell a false sense of privacy. Steve Jobs has left a huge legacy at Apple. His approach to design, to products, to presentation, that one more thing. But he would have never thought that his personal belongings would be sold at auctions. And now his shoes, trusty old Birkenstocks, were sold on an auction. Jobs has been seen multiple times wearing these brown suede sandals in the 70s and 80s. So these shoes are basically a relic from pre-Apple times. Here's what Steve's daughter, Chris Ann Brennan, said about them. The sandals were part of his simple side. They were his uniform. The great thing about a uniform is that you don't have to worry about what to wear in the morning. Originally, the auction was expecting to receive $60,000 to $80,000 for them, but the pair was sold for $218,000. The buyer of the used shoes was not named. According to Julian's Auctions, Jobs gave the sandals to his house manager, Mark Sheff, but Julian's Auctions didn't confirm that it was Sheff who listed this particular lot. Let's just hope that eventually this piece will find its way into a museum and won't be thrown into someone's attic. This September, Apple has revealed not only iPhones, obviously, the company has presented the updated Apple TV 4K, which was quickly forgotten by everyone. However, the time passed and the first users have started to notice something strange. Their 128GB Apple TVs were using only half of that storage, showing that the model has 64 gigs of storage. It turns out a bug in tvOS can prevent users from using the full 128GB of the top-range Apple TV 4K, leaving 64GB unusable. For sure, it is a bug rather than some hardware issue, because the error message users get instead is triggered in very specific circumstances. It appears whenever a user has filled 64 gigabytes and then attempts to download a game or an app. But this bug works rather strangely. If the user is on even 63.9 gigabytes and then attempts to download an app that would take it well over the 64 gigabytes threshold, they can, but that doesn't allow access to the remaining space though. Apple has not made any statements about this issue and hasn't released any software updates. Surely this isn't a huge issue, but it shows the bigger picture. It shows that Apple is somewhat unable to test everything out before releasing their devices into the world. If the product launches continue to be as troublesome as they are now, Apple may risk facing reputational losses, but let's wait and see. Apple is suddenly restricting the everyone option in AirDrop to 10 minutes on iPhones purchased in mainland China. Such news has appeared on the Chinese social network Weibo. Apple says it is improving the AirDrop experience by automatically reverting the receiving setting back to contacts only after 10 minutes to help mitigate unwanted file sharing. But the world is very much skeptical about that. The Guardian suggests that such limitations are only existent in China because the protesters have used AirDrop during the last protest against the party and president in Beijing, which, as you might have guessed, isn't received well by the government. Chinese censors were quick to wipe out any information on the web related to protests, but AirDrop has been and stays out of their reach. This can be another sign of Apple being forced to forfeit the security and comfort of its customers in pursuit of high revenue and stock growth. It's not the first time Apple introduces some region-specific restrictions to comply with local regulations. For example, in Europe, the volume on iPhones is lower than it is in the US because of the hearing protection standards. But in China, it takes another leap forward once again. Apple previously stopped including the Taiwan flag emoji on iPhones in Hong Kong, banned over 2,000 apps, deleted popular podcasting apps from the App Store, and more. To cover its tracks, Apple might release this function to the entire world, but the internet remembers, and we remember. If you were planning on picking up a new iPhone 14, you should rush to the store faster. Apple is experiencing difficulties with the production of the latest iPhones in China, mainly due to the tight government rules in China. It is difficult to correctly assess how much the factory in Zhengzhou was affected, especially if we take into account limited public data points. These troubles may lead Apple to sufficient financial losses in the light of the upcoming holiday season. JP Morgan states that iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max shipment estimates are now down by 5 million units, and for other devices down by 3 million units. Total shipment forecast is currently approximated at around 74 million per period. In comparison, last year Apple shipped 82 million units. Of course, Apple will try to mitigate these supply issues and get back on track, but given the current mood of China's government, these COVID restrictions can get stricter and last longer than estimated. This possibly can be one of the worst years in Apple's recent sales history. And if you want to see more Apple news, let us know in the comments below and what you think about the folding iPhone, how about that lawsuit, and as always, thank you for watching and see you in the next one.